With war rolling at the thug, we here to bring the truth. Jar open this podcast, we breaking through the fake news. They try to silence us, but we will be subdued. We're bearded alpha males here to save the youth. Spitting fire on the mic with the bass Christian takes. Exposing the lies, keeping the demons at bay. We ain't afraid to speak up, we won't be swayed. Jar open this podcast, where the truth is laid. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas thug, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. We ain't playing games, we're on a mission to awaken the masses with our intuition. Pulling out the corruption with no inhibition. Draw open this podcast, sparking a revolution. We're not afraid to stand tall in a world full of deceit. We're the voice of reason, bringing light to the street. Keeping it real, never missing a beat. Jar open this podcast, where the truth meets the heat. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas thug, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. Jar open this podcast, where the truth will never cease. Join us on the journey to bring back peace. We're rolling Atlas thug, fearless in our release. Jar open this podcast, where the lies will decrease.
What's up? What's up? How's it going? Saturday stream. Just gonna have a good time enjoying the Saturday and hanging out a little bit. What's up with you, man?
Nothing really. Just working, getting things ready for next month. Watching the news. I kind of feeling neutral about what I saw today. Nothing really too crazy. But a lot of scandal stuff to get into. Seems like drama dropping at the end of Friday. Always get that end of the news cycle spin. They're just ready to take things on, man. God's good.
Nice. Yeah, I certainly agree with that. They love dropping news on Fridays and hoping that it dies over the weekend, don't they? By the time Monday comes around, there's a bunch of new news and Friday stuff is already forgotten about.
Right.
Pretty crazy. But we got a big show. We got a lot of stuff lined up. We're going to talk mainly about this whole RFK Jr. blackmail scandal. We're going to get into depth over, the details of what's going on with that. Personally, I don't know a whole lot about it, so Atlas is going to be our guide on that one. The SEC ends its probe into the Hawk Tuah coin. I'm sure everybody remembers her. They did a meme coin, crypto, and it was rugged intentionally, I believe. I think it was intentionally rugged, and some people lost quite a bit of money in the process, but the SEC decided to end the probe, so apparently no charges coming from that. We'll talk about that a little bit. USAID officially has been shut down. We know that Doge has been going through the USAID spending. They did an initial wave of layoffs, I think of about 90% of the people. And then I guess they just decided to go ahead and pull the plug. We'll dig into that some more and find out what's all going on with that. But to me, sounds good, Right. There's a lot of waste, a lot of nonsense going on with USAID. And just like a lot of these other, 3-letter agencies, best just to shut it down and proceed from there, right? The George Floyd mural has been removed in Salt Lake City. Amongst a few other things that we'll probably get into if time allows. So, it's been a fairly busy Saturday for news, when sometimes, Saturdays are pretty chill, kind of hard to dig up information to talk about, but we got some stuff in here. Let's see.
Yeah. As
crazy
on Saturday.
I wonder if everything's going all right. I see nobody in chat. This is a first. So everybody busy? Everybody enjoying spring and not watching the show? What's going on here, folks?
Could be. It was a nice day out today. It was
yeah.
It's like 72 degrees where I'm at now. It was like 75 for a good bit as well.
Yeah, it was a nice day around here. I had a hen decide she was going to sit on a bunch of eggs back in the woods. She found her way into an old tree stump. Hey, what's up, Tix Bomber? She found her way into a tree stump with about 10 eggs, and 2 of them hatched. TT says, I just didn't want to be first.
That's funny.
That's funny. But yeah, this hen, she ended up hatching 2 of the roughly 10 eggs. I think like 5 of them are still sitting there, so who knows if any more will hatch. But she's been running around the yard with these 2 little baby chickens. It's cute seeing them. That one of them looks like literally like a chipmunk. It's got like the stripes down its back and everything. It's pretty cool. I'll probably post a picture or 2 in the Discord. I've been meaning to, actually. I got them on my phone already, but I'll post them in the Discord one of these days soon.
Yeah, we took my daughter to Rural King a couple days ago, and just had my daughter see the baby chicks they have there, which they didn't have like any actual chickens. They only had baby turkeys, and they had rabbits. So we didn't see any chicks. They only had turkeys, and only a couple of them at that. But she was very what's the right word for that? She was very appeased at everything that's in Rural King. Basically just walked around the store, and she was like looking at everything. She was very satisfied with that.
That's pretty funny. I'm surprised that they didn't have any baby chickens. Maybe somebody came in and swooped them all up, but I think it's about this time of year where Tractor Supply and some of the other, companies kind of stock up and everything like that. But
right.
You never know. I don't know what's going on with that company. I've never heard of them. You said Rural King?
Yeah, Rural King.
Okay, I've heard of them. I don't think they're around here, but I've heard of that name.
Interesting.
I want to remind folks that we are trying to move the stream off of America First TV and Atlas Thugs channel over to the Jar Openers podcast channel. So make sure, if you're not subscribed to the Jar Openers podcast channel, you can find that link down in the description. Please do go over there and help us launch the show off of its new channel so that we can separate and consolidate the show into one space where all the likes and comments will be in the same place. That'll help us with the algorithm, right?
Yes, sir.
We also have a Discord. That link is in the description. We continue these conversations, perpetually. And so we got a nice little community over there, and love to see anybody new join. We'll welcome you unless you unless you're a weirdo, and then we'll shame you. But it's a place where iron sharpens iron. King Solo Wings asked, what's the name again? It's called the Jar Openers Podcast. The link is in the description. And it's the channel is called the Jar Openers Podcast. So or I don't know, is it the? I'm saying the Jar Openers Podcast. If you search and you put channel after it, it'll take you over there. But the link should be in the description. Here, let me check, just to double check.
Yeah, everything should be in the description. If you copy it and paste from our outline source, should be.
Yeah, it's there. I see it. But yeah, I appreciate anybody that goes over there and subscribes and shows us some love. We're building it, from the ground up, and we just started it like a week or so ago. So it's off to a good start.
Yeah,
and I appreciate.
Why let everybody else online have the infighting? Come to our Discord, you can infight there.
Right. And I appreciate that, King Solo Wings. That's where most of the chat will be going on and everything as well. Let's see here. Donnie says we have a nice community. Yeah, definitely. All of a sudden, the fat electrician was on. Just sub. Thank you, King. Appreciate that.
Awesome.
All right, so let's go ahead and get right into this RFK blackmail scandal. I'm going to let you take the lead because you know more about it than I do.
Yeah. So let me just start this by saying we do have a video from Ian Carroll. He'll do a bit better job explaining what's going on here. The reality is there's like 2 major portions to this story. If anybody remembers, RFK was involved in a scandal, or was scandalous at the time, last year with a woman named Olivia Nuzzi. Now, Olivia Nuzzi, supposedly, as the story went, the allegations were as such. They were RFK had a contact. Her name was Olivia Nuzzi. She kept baiting him to unblock her on different sources. And with, hey, I got a story. Hey, I have this. They're going to drop this about you, RFK. You need to know this now. And turns out what she was doing, she'd get on RFK's good side to unblock her. Well, the reason she was blocked in the first place was because she was supposedly sending him nudes. She was sexting him all the time. The way they kind of described it was she had some kind of overt obsession with RFK, and that's why she was doing all of this sexting. Now, the reason why the story changed is because we have new information, supposedly, and what people are alleging so far. Now, again, no kind of major evidence is truly broken about this, but so far the allegations are such that, in fact, that affair was not one-sided as it was reported to be. In fact, RFK was also dutifully involved in that. He was also recording images and video of himself, sending it to her, sexually explicit. I'm not sure if it ever got full physical, like they had actually met up with each other before. But essentially, there's a lot more to the story, and the allegations are as such. They are the reason why the story was initially kind of curbed and nipped in the butt was because RFK supposedly had bent the knee and said, please don't upload this or full on like dump this on me. I'll listen to what you have to say. So kind of like RFK being blackmailed, as so much of else is going and getting blackmailed in politics. Supposedly he was being blackmailed by some group. Now, a lot of people, Candace, Ian, Tucker Carlson, and myself included, think that this was done in a scheme that was from a pro-Zionist, a pro-Israel organization that was essentially using that as a way to get him to go along with things that they wanted him to do. Circumstantial at best. There's a lot of things to kind of point to. This could be a couple different groups of people, but essentially, and you can even see that on screen there, what most people are talking about is people are ready for some kind of major information to drop about what this blackmail scheme was on RFK, or if we don't get the information on the scheme, we're going to get leaked images, probably dick pics of RFK and things of that nature too, that he probably just didn't want in the sphere. So it's two major portions. The Israel blackmail supposed allegations, and then also this kind of network of the reporters. So you have the Olivia Nuzzi girl, who's the sexual affair with RFK, but then you also have under her employ, which would be Jessica Lee Krause, and you also have Emily Hagen. As Candace Owens kind of had basically said, well, Candace Owens' point of view was that you inevitably had a couple of individuals under her employ who were writing hit pieces about them. Candace Owens, Ian Carroll, Tucker Carlson, a group of them. But it turns out there was internal messaging that ended up getting leaked, showing that there was even a little bit of infighting between those group of people, because like they were writing up conspiracy pieces that the other ones were like, there's no way, it sounds like too 4chan. I mean, verbatim, like one of their messages said, like, this is too 4chan, like it's too conspiratorial. You're making a lot of allegations with not enough substantive proof. Keep it to like a little bit of a smear. So it's kind of like all these things, these moving portions around that's coming out. To the point that this Olivia Nuzzi girl, even this happened in September, I believe, of last year. Supposedly she was caught very recently in California because she got fired from the New York Magazine with a license plate of a foreign car in California in Malibu that read RFK something. And so you have like all these kind of weird things going on, because you would think if like your marriage got blown up and you lost your job for all this affair, you wouldn't like brand it on a super expensive foreign vehicle that like apparently isn't yours. So there's so many moving pieces to this. Ian Carroll's going to explain it a bit better, but just to give an oversight of everything that's kind of been talked about in the last like 24 hours, that's kind of where we are with this. Now, Ian Carroll's going to again frame things a bit better than I can, but the main point here is that we're on the verge of probably getting some pretty spicy details about RFK and what this scandal had involved with it too. So we'll see what happens with that, but I'll let Ian Carroll say it because I was going to say it better than I can.
Sounds good.
So the Bobby Kennedy blackmail story is currently breaking in many directions all across the internet. And American politics is not going to be the same after this weekend. That's not hyperbole. This is not just a hook. And I don't really know where to start. But this is the kind of story that I've gotten enough calls from enough people tonight, and there's enough going on that I feel like we need to make a video right now to keep some people safe and to get as much as we all know out on the internet right now so that everyone can be safe. And the best place for everyone to start is at Candace's video that she put up today, that she very aptly titled "One Nation Under Blackmail." Go watch it. She does a way better job of explaining a bunch of what's going on than I could. But as soon as I was like 10 minutes into it, and then I started getting phone calls from sources telling me more information that is corroborating and taking it even further than what is exposed in that video. And I have sources telling me that there are people in like media and around Bobby that know about this and know it's coming and are trying to protect him and save him from this. But it is past that, and there is no saving anyone from this, I think. And we just have to deal with what's about to happen. So I'm going to leave all of that out, and we're going to start the story here with our girl Jessica, House and Habit. She had tasked one of her writers, Emily Hagan, with writing a hit piece about Candace Owens. They were trying to create or dig up some dirt on Candace's husband for some reason to take her down. For reasons we'll kind of get to in a second. Emily submitted a draft kind of, and Jessica, House and Habit, was having her girl, I believe, Olivia Nuzzi, read through it, and it was like, we can't publish that. It's too 4chan-y. House and Habit clarified that it needs to be a clean shot to take down Candace Owens. Good fucking luck with that. If you don't remember who Olivia Nuzzi is, she's the woman that had the sexting scandal with RFK last year, who then cozied up to House and Habit for reasons that are not entirely clear, and sort of started secretly editing there behind the scenes and kind of replacing people and getting really close to Jessica Reed Krause, House and Habit, for reasons that are still not entirely clear as far as I'm aware. To be fair, there's a lot that is not entirely clear because this is so complicated, and everything in this video is hearsay and rumors. And obviously, when they tried to come to Candace and it created all this drama, and Candace don't take no fucking shit, and Jessica had been super mean to the writer of the article and that had then fired her. And so her and Emily had all this drama, and then her other best friend, and it had gotten super fucking vitriolic. And eventually Emily was like, fuck it. I'm just going to go to Candace and come clean and say what's going on. That's how we got this video. And I was only 15 minutes into this video when I started getting interrupted by all kinds of calls from all kinds of people all over the country that have more information about this, because this story is way past the point of no return, and it is way bigger than some girl.
You want to go ahead and pause it. One thing I wanted to add there too. The thing with Ian Carroll, especially because you see a lot of people who like poke fun at him because he's like, he always says like, you know, sources and such, which I think is actually kind of a bit respectable that he doesn't like dox people from who's giving him all the information and such, and that he is a source of what a lot of people are putting on top of him, right? Because they know he's probably going to talk about it, so they'll send him information like whistleblowers and such, which he's even said publicly too. Like, if you're a major whistleblower, like, please don't come to me. Like, I'm just some like random guy. But again, this is a guy months ago who got made fun of for the same thing when he was talking about the Daily Wire collapse. I mean, we're talking like almost 8-9 months ago, and here we are today, where you have 25% of the Daily Wire staff got laid off, and they're declaring bankruptcy and hiring bankruptcy lawyers. So like, there's also a bit of hot and cold, because this is also the same guy who promoted the Tim Walz molestation story, which we later found out was actually entirely from a source that could not have been trusted at all, and then didn't come forward. And so you have to take everything when it comes to this as like just grains of sand that could be true or couldn't be true. But it's just what we're getting, and it's the majority, the overwhelming amount of what we're seeing from a lot of different reporters is in line with what he's saying here. So obviously take everything with a grain of salt, but to just ignore it is like an entirely different question. It's like, there's at least something here, you know, where there's smoke, there's fire. Whether it's all true can be, we can tell with time. But I think there's at least portions of stuff that has to be, you know, close to the truth. If, you know, there's an overwhelming majority of different reporters coming out and saying, hey, I have this. And so just to put a little stick in there too, it's like, obviously make up your own mind, as any kind of, you know, person with an IQ over 80 should be doing in the first place. But don't take everything as like gospel, no matter who says it, right? Whether it's Candace or Ian or Tucker Carlson, anybody, doesn't matter. Always make sure you do, like, always follow through and follow up with these stories, because things happen and change so quickly.
Right. And Tix Bomber mentioned that Ian Carroll is simping for Candace a bit now. Mentioned genuine question, not sarcasm. Just notice he seems to bring her up more often. And I don't watch Candace all that often, but I do. I have noticed when I watch her that she talks about Ian Carroll all the time as well. So I think they're becoming pretty buddy. Maybe it's just the newness of, and that's just my theory. Maybe it's just the newness of, you know, Ian Carroll's splashing onto the scene, and then they just become friends or acquaintances. And I don't know, right? Like Candace said the other day that she learned more about her own firing or her own removal from the Daily Wire from Ian than she knew.
Yeah, than she knew herself. Yeah.
So that gives her a lot of, or in her perspective of Ian, that gives him a lot of credibility, just because, obviously that situation where if he knows more than she does and she's the one that's directly involved, makes him come off as super, super credible. But that doesn't mean about everything.
Right.
But let's continue here.
Trump Butler rally in July of last year, House and Habit was hanging out with some of the people that I know and apparently receiving a bunch of phone calls all about this blackmail situation with the Olivia Nuzzi sexting scandal. And while she was taking calls, she was kind of filling them in excitedly on the story as she was getting it, kind of as though she was going to write a piece about it. And what they were told is that it was many, 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 many instances of recorded video sexting stuff. They were told in some form that Olivia Nuzzi's husband was in on recording it, whether that is him tapping her phone or her and him as a husband-wife couple kind of targeting him. I mean, Olivia Nuzzi did insert herself into the RFK campaign, and then all this stuff happened. And then when I was at Rescue the Republic event just a few months later, I was hearing all kinds of rumors, and a lot of people were hearing rumors about dick pics that were apparently coming out that never came out. I suspect that that was a misunderstanding of this story sort of being kind of rumored around. So what we got was a story that Olivia Nuzzi and him had a romantic, emotional connection over the phone that had caused her, it was inappropriate, and he apologized. And so she left the campaign sort of, and then went and got real cozy with House and Habit, who had a lot of details, who was rad. I don't know what happened there, but I know that what a very trusted person on my end told me that they heard at that event was that it was not just that. It was recordings of video sex. There's also a lot of swirling rumors of other people that he's been having sex with that are very heartbreaking and inappropriate. But I started to wonder, who might Olivia Nuzzi and possibly her husband, who, if they had that, who might they have passed such blackmail to? Either sold it or been sent by some group. And you need look no further than her Wikipedia page to learn that in 2013, just out of university, actually while still in university, she volunteered as an intern for Anthony Weiner's New York City mayoral campaign. If you don't know about Anthony Weiner, look it up. And that is a direct tie to Huma Abedin and to Hillary Clinton, and to, at that point, just pick your term for whatever deep state groups you want to talk about. That blackmail could be anywhere by now, but I think we all know who has it. And Candace certainly knows who has it.
All that we're all doing at the moment is pretending that RFK Jr.'s unflinching loyalty and, quite frankly, his fear of saying anything negative about Israel. I pull up Dave Smith here.
The worst humanitarian catastrophe in the world
You can take
right
me out
now.
of this.
And the idea that you, who are supposed to be the anti-neocon, anti-war presidential candidate, are immediately on October 7th, before we even had an investigation, before we even knew what happened there, you immediately say, what basically you said everything they say about Ukraine. You said it was an unprovoked attack. Which, like, come on, give me a break. An attack from Gaza against Israel is unprovoked. And then you said, we have to support them in whatever it takes. Well, look, sir, we're watching it right now. This is whatever it takes.
And just to clarify, there's a lot of other evidence that Israel and Israel-aligned people are involved in having this blackmail, but I don't want to get into details just yet because that would kind of compromise some of the journalists that are currently a little at risk. Right now, Bobby's own staff around him they know this, and they have been trying to find the handler that's close to him, because it must be very close in order to be managing his tweets and managing his appearances and everything he's doing. And it sounds like there's a lot of people that are trying to protect him from this coming out, but it is already coming out. And unfortunately, it is out enough that journalists are in danger. And the point of this video is to let everyone know that the journalists are all in connection and we are all talking and we all know the story and we have all shared it already and we are all location sharing with each other and we are looking out for each other. And so Emily Hagan is protected and we are watching her and we have her location shared and she's already put her stuff out on the internet. But if anything were to happen to her, we are watching and we will know who did it. There are other people too that have information about this stuff that are in positions that are a little scary right now. And to everyone out there in the bad team, we are also in touch with them and we are also watching them and location sharing with them. Do not touch anyone. Decentralized media is doing its thing. And
that's crazy. It's like they're all making sure that nobody gets disappeared or something.
Well, that's the concern, is that this is actually so hot and nobody was ready, because like there's no narrative about this. It's just like it just is just getting dropped, right? Like no one even knew anything was happening with RFK until like last night.
Right.
And so I think they're all kind of concerned somebody may be getting, confronted about what they may have, especially because it seems like nobody's sure like who is exactly holding on to whatever evidence that they have. But clearly, what he had said, RFK's team is pretty, terrified of what's going on. And so there's multiple groups of people who are all location sharing with each other. Because they're,
wild.
they're ready for something to happen to them.
Yeah, that's wild. I've never heard of, I mean, I guess it happens, but for them to openly out front be like, yo, we're location sharing with each other. So, I mean, it's weird. I'm kind of with TNT here saying, need some evidence and being skeptical of this whole situation. But I don't know. I mean, with all the AI videos that you can make nowadays, I don't even know what I would believe coming out from, what they're saying about RFK. If there was, texted videos and things like that, it seems like the lady involved is pretty sketchy. So I don't know. I really don't know what to believe about this whole scenario. But we'll let him finish up this last minute, and then we'll look into it a little further.
And I wish that we didn't have to do it this way. And I do not know all the details yet. And I don't know if every single little detail that I just said is correct. But I know that enough of it is going on. And I'm getting it from like 5 to 6 different sources, 7 different sources tonight, that this is coming out. And the next months are going to be completely insane. To everyone who's going to be watching this unfold, think very critically, take your time. Don't trust anyone. Don't trust me. Just take your time and watch it come out and don't rush to judgments. There is going to be media spin on media spin on media spin. There will be personal attacks, character assassinations. The entire playbook is about to come out. Jessica, the time to come clean is right now. You have an opportunity to tell the truth. And Bobby, I am sorry that this is how this has to happen, but your opportunity to tell the truth is coming right up. And to everyone that's going to say, I told you so, you're right. You did tell us so.
Right. So people are forgetting like this, right? Ian was a major proponent of RFK, right? Ian's biggest thing was make America healthy again. He wasn't actually like a real Trump supporter. He didn't want Kamala in there either. He was actually saying like he might not even vote until RFK joined up with Trump, because his main issues that he cared about was making people healthy again. Because he got to start by basically going into a grocery store, grabbing a product off the shelf and saying, now let's look into what ingredients are in here and who's got money into this now. And it seems like people are clearly divided on how they feel about Ian Carroll. Ultimately, to me, it's like I definitely appreciate Ian. Every single video of his is like done in with the side of like, again, allegedly he always does like his P's and Q's. He says even to not trust him, right? It's like he's just reporting what he's hearing. And so I get it, right? Anybody goes after God's chosen people get offended about it. So it's whatever. But I just thought it was wild because he's essentially reporting a major story against like his guy, right? It's like his like everything he puts behind, right? I think he even named his like secondary podcast with a couple of those guys are all like Maha individuals whose main things were revolved around like vaccine kind of protections, the chemicals that are in food. Like those were kind of his main proponents. He was less so about like the economics or anything. It was more so about like the nefarious dealings with like BlackRock and like who's paying money, what shampoo companies are doing in terms of like hair loss and like what's really in your food and like things like that. So to me, I just thought that was like an odd pinpoint there, because Laura Loomer was making Ian apologize about this, because Laura Loomer had actually reported on all of this stuff about him at the top of the month. But people buried that. People had to, went after Laura Loomer for that. So maybe you don't like Ian Carroll, but I mean, Laura Loomer made Ian apologize over this because Laura had reported this the 1st of March. So I know, but people probably don't like any journalists I could list off there too. And I don't think you should like journalists either. And there shouldn't be any kind of a cult of personality. But I thought that was odd too, right? And so he ends up coming out and he's like, you know what? I do owe you an apology, Laura. I'm sorry. Like, but he's very, very minimalistic. And I thought that was pretty funny because you know how kind of balls to the wall Laura Loomer is, especially with her reporting. Anytime she has a moment to say, I told you so, she's going to be very, very loud and upfront about it. But just a kind of like odd twist into that little story there, which is a little crazy.
Yeah. And, the conversation going on in chat right now. And for those of you guys that can't see it, if you're on America First TV, there's a lot of chat going on over on the Jar Openers podcast channel. So make sure you click that link down in the description and go over there and hit the subscribe button. Also hit the subscribe button over on America First as well. But most of the conversation is going on over there on the Jar Openers podcast channel. And we're trying to build it up from the ground up. We started about a week ago. So anybody that could go over there, definitely appreciate it. But as far as the conversation going on in chat here, I think what's going on with Ian Carroll, and I could be completely wrong, but my introduction to this dude, I think, was his video breaking down the Las Vegas shooting. And it was very thorough, in-depth, and I was rather impressed, and I learned a lot from it. And so, that gave me this perspective of, oh, wow, this guy's good. And I think that Ian Carroll has blown up so fast. And this, like I said, this is just my hypothesis, my theory, that maybe now he's searching for that next video, that next round of clicks. And so he wants to be out there. He wants to be first. And also at the same time, he's impressed a lot of people, including Candace Owens. And so maybe, he always talks about his sources within the Daily Wire. Maybe people are reaching out to him because they want him to be their source. But at the same time, he should be cautious and take those sources, the information that he's getting from these sources, with a grain of salt potentially as well. Just because, that's the way the game is played. People are going to start feeding him misinformation. As soon as they realize that he's, got some clout. He just came off of the Joe Rogan podcast. Like we talked about earlier, that Candace and him have been mentioning each other in their videos. He doesn't want to fall to obscurity, right? So this could be him just trying to get out in front of his story, which, like you mentioned, Laura Loomer has already brought this story up. So it's not like he's cutting the new, breaking the news to you. I do agree that Donnie a bit, that he's just kind of giving the commentary and what he knows about it, and maybe adding what his sources have told him. But for me, I think there's a lot still that we just have to wait to come out from this situation. I'm still learning about it just kind of as we're going along here. Like you said, it didn't hit the scene until yesterday. So this is all brand new news to me. Even Joy and Cyrus mentioned this is the first time I'm hearing this. And so I don't know. One of those things, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. My kind of thoughts too is like, this is a guy who was driving, Uber, like a year and a half ago, doing Uber as like a primary job. Like I've been in that position before. And so just to think about it, it's like, like I can't, right? Like imagine, I think if like, what if my start would have been through TikTok, right? Like what if I, like when I was doing commentary, and that's how I ended up getting blown up too. And what happens if like in a year I would have like had I have 1 million followers. And next thing you know, I do have somebody who's like, hey, I worked with Ben Shapiro for the last 3.5 years. Here's this. Like, what do you do with that? Right. Like being in that position, right. And like being this person. Because now it's like, this is clearly what you want to do, right? You don't want to go back to doing fucking Uber. Like this is like what you're going to make your career out of. And it's like he's openly transparent about like not taking money from different sources. But you just kind of think it's like the guy's like, he literally just got here. I mean, he went on Joe Rogan, what, like almost a week ago now, maybe 2 weeks ago now at this point.
Yeah.
Guys making major mainstream waves. And I do agree with Donnie, right? It's a commentary. He's like way less so like a reporter, like on the ground going to locations. Everything he does is from his room with that weird blue and orange light that's always on his face. Because he's doing like commentary stuff. And that's why he's big. It's because people like the way he presents things. He can do a 9-minute video where it's just like boom, 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 like fact after this. And it makes sense. He presents it in a way that's linear and you can like follow through with what he's saying as well. And so, I mean, you guess you become a reporter when people are coming to you with news reports, right? Like what else do you do with that?
Right. It's hard to fact check. It's hard to fact check when you're getting inside sources or, inside sources. Like I said, we don't know if it's actually inside or not, but it is coming from an insider. We just don't know if it's factual. So I mean, he's reporting on the stuff. He's I don't know, right? He's been right about a lot of things. He's been wrong about some things. So we take it all with a grain of salt, just to round it back, or take it all the way full circle and take it with a grain of salt. But for now, other than watching Candace Owens break it down, I mean, this is pretty much the simplest, fastest way that we can have access to it, at least to what's going on and the players in this story and everything like that. And we'll just have to wait and see what comes out from this. I mean, the one thing that I do find interesting is of all the things that he's talked about, this is the first time I've seen him say, like, look, we're all tracking each other's phones, and like that's a little awkward. It's like he's talking directly to the people who potentially don't want him to talk about this, and it's just such a weird thing. I mean, when it boils down to it, how much more of it how much more potentially is to this story here, other than RFK being a cheater or not, potentially, right? I mean, I don't know. It's crazy. I guess it has to do with the reporters. I'm just failing to kind of see the exact like magnitude of the entire thing. Other than that, like infidelity is huge, but
right. Well, I think it's just so they know, like if something something happens to somebody, they know what to expect, or if they're not hearing from anybody, and they look at the location, they'll see something going on. But I think again, with like the Las Vegas stuff as well, right? This guy's like main thing was going through like conspiratorial stuff. That's like new age conspiratorial stuff, not looking at like stuff from like the 50s and 60s. And so people, imagine like, especially you're brand new into the sphere, right? And so what would you expect somebody would do when they're presented with evidence that would change their mind?
I mean, go with it.
They would change their mind. They would see the new evidence and they'd go, oh, okay. Like, I see. Like, this is like, okay, I changed my mind on this, right? It's because you were presented like with new evidence. Like, that's what you would expect. We're like in the period now where like if you flip flop on something, it's like seen as like a downgrade. But that's like because people are getting so insanely tribal. Like I saw Britta No Souls from Newt, No Soup for Knowles, who's like a Daily Wire shill account. And she was like, this guy flip-flops so much. And it's like, yeah, he's been here for a year. You're acting like he's David Icke or Whitney Webb or someone who's worked on the Kennedy files for 40 straight years and wrote books on it. It's like, no, dude picked up a phone, made money off TikTok and just says things the way that he sees them. And so when you're presented with somebody who comes along like a Whitney Webb, who's like, actually, I did this for like 40 years and I wrote 3 books. You got this and this and this wrong. Here's what this and this that I was looking at. You'd go, oh, like, I get that. Like, that makes sense. Like, I'll go along. Like, that makes more sense. Like that. And now I'll align things like this too. It's just like a natural kind of process, right? It's like what you would do when you're presented with new evidence. Same thing with like anything, really, right? It's like people who aren't Christian become Christian when they're ultimately presented with some kind of crazy physical, whether it is for some people, it's like the scientific evidence of like the ark. With some people, it's like actual spiritual evidence, something that they experience, and they change their heart, they change their mind. Like that's just a natural kind of thing to like go along with. And so, not that anybody in chat say anything like that, but I saw a lot of people who are attacking him, and I think others as well, for like flip-flopping on RFK for this. And it's like, dude, if you believe this to be true and the people who presented it to you are credible and people you trust, I mean, what do you do with that? Right? I mean, no better than what he said. He even told you not to trust him. So if you have your own thoughts, you don't trust him, don't trust him.
Yeah, for sure. King Solo Wings mentioned, he said, this chat is better because I get way more attention. I didn't see you chat in the other one. Maybe there's something going on there, but I didn't see you chat in the other one. But regardless, appreciate that you're here. Let me know if something's going on with that other chat, though, because like I said, I didn't see you popping up over there.
Interesting.
Tix Bomber said, in happier news, the quartering is going broke. The quartering is going broke? That sucks.
Yeah, he's like...
I wish success on most people, you know what I mean? Just generally.
He's like $250,000 in debt from his coffee company.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like 300,000. Now it's down to like 240,000. What is that? What was it? Is this coffee brand coffee? But I can't remember who like the loan is tied up with. But that's what it was for, right? He went out and like did like some kind of like a multi-asset loan, and like apparently he sold way less coffee than what he was hoping to, and so he's like super in debt over that. But I don't think it's anything like he's going bankrupt on. It's just that he has to like refinance what that loan is.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, I mentioned before, I like to support the creators in the space, and I signed up to the Publica news site, and I bought some coffee from him, found a flavor that I liked, even though he was charging like $18 a bag or something ridiculous. Found one that I liked, and then he quit selling the flavor that I liked. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna go buy my coffee from somewhere else. Maybe he should work on his consistency with some of the flavors. You watch Tim Pool over there, he's got the Ian's Graphene Dream and the other one, and they're going crazy, you know what I mean? He's got other flavors as well, but it's like right. stick to the flavors that are selling that people want, man. Like, what do you got going? What are you doing?
Right.
King Solo Wing says Jeremy is fine. He just opened his new warehouse. Okay, so like everybody carries debt, and that's the thing too. If it's just an investment or whatever, it's not really going broke. Then that makes sense. But yeah, hopefully it's not going broke. I don't want the quartering to run into trouble.
Well, it seems like there's this like a group of Daily Wire people who keep coming at him because he keeps quoting like with this recent one, I think it was Dominic Michael Trippi, who reported earlier today that the Daily Wire had hired the bankruptcy lawyers and then fired another 25% of their staff because their VP of operations got laid off today. So another like major ball player is out of the Daily Wire again. It was a girl, I can't remember what her name is. But he keeps quoting all this stuff, and he's like, man, I'm telling you, USAID gets shut down. Now the Daily Wire is going bankrupt. He's like, coincidence? And I think people keep getting irritated by that. Because I have not seen any. I don't think there's any evidence that USAID has been supporting the Daily Wire, but he just keeps making like fun of the Daily Wire in that aspect. So people were going after him, and then I think one of those people dug up that and then threw it at his face while he was out knocking on doors with Scott Pressler. And so that's why it got floated out that the quartering has all that debt in place.
Oh, gotcha. So because he's quick to start, poke fight, start drama, participate in the drama with everybody else. So
right.
Getting a little back his direction. Okay, I see. Folks are talking about how he's mostly ads now. 22-minute videos, 3 minutes of content. Well, it's working.
I mean, I like his live
him.
streams a little bit though, like having at least a few different people on and rotating it through. That one girl on there, I can't stand that Melanie Mac girl. She's just like too much for me, but Styx is all right with me. I disagree with like a lot of how he feels. He's like way different, kind of value oriented than me, but I still appreciate his takes. He's just like kind of like a laid back guy. But I did want to address that one thing, right? Was it ever proven that like Hannah Claire did steal equipment? Was that ever proven? I see people float that all the time, but like I've never seen anything attached to it.
I can't imagine that she would really. She doesn't seem like the type of person, first off, but right. I haven't seen anything confirmed or denied that she did. Well,
I was curious. There's like a joke that got out of hand. You know how Tim would always say like Sheamus is stealing his spoons,
right?
I wonder if they were joking that like
he made a joke
for this, and then now people think it's like for real. It's like I don't, because I'm the same way, right? You look at Hannah Claire and it's like, I doubt she'd even like be rude to you if you like slam the door in her face or something. I can't even see her, take the take some kind of a computer or something with you. That'd be crazy.
Right. Maybe she kept a tablet. I don't know. Tim said it on stream, but it's not proven. Okay.
A mic and
So-
a camera. That makes sense. Maybe she took it home with her for whatever reason.
Took a mic and a camera. Probably
But
she
could
felt
have,
like it was
maybe
hers.
she was stealing a lot more than that.
Maybe she felt like it was hers. I don't know.
She's using it to her advantage. She's like, nobody would think I'm stealing something. Next thing you know, Tim's like, bro, I've bought 12 cameras in the last like 3 weeks. Someone's taking my shit.
Right. Yeah, it's funny.
Right.
That Chris said, what is it? I want to get a different hustle that no one else is doing. Talking about the coffee thing. And JB says, is anyone selling litter box cat shit treats for dogs yet, Chris? That's gross.
Funny.
That's gross. That's really funny.
It's
Angry
something.
said Chris has plenty of those. Chris has a lot of cats, that's for sure.
I found out that like I was watching something where you heard of Chewy?
Yeah, I get my chicken food delivered from Chewy.
So apparently if they find out that your animal has died that you were buying food for, they actually like refund you like what the last food bag they would have sent you, and they send you like flowers and stuff. They like send like a letter, like a personalized thing, and it's like, thank you, your dog had Chewy for this period of time or whatever. And apparently it's like they're kind of like marketing ploy. Well, you can say marketing ploy, but they they spend money for the flowers, send the flowers out and stuff. But they do that because like that's their way of like, if the next that person goes and they finally decide to get a dog again, they're like, well, they're probably going to more than likely go with Chewy again, right? Because it's just such a very nice thing to do, and somebody's dog passed away. And I think they have that in the options, right? Like if you cancel Chewy, it has like a special option where it's like, you cancel because you didn't like the food or this, but one of them is like, did you cancel because your pet passed away? And it takes you to like a sub menu where you're like, yes, my dog passed away or something like that, as like a reason like why I'm canceling my subscription. And then they'll send you all that stuff. I just thought it was a cool idea. I'd never heard of that before.
Yeah, that is cool. Shows they care, right? At least it's more than the other companies are doing.
Right. Just that, obviously no company really goes anywhere, crazy or does anything kind of wild like that. But I thought it was cool. Like the bare minimum, a company could at least, I guess, do if you've spent like years of money for like a $40 a month subscription or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. I give them a couple $100 a month in dog food and chicken food and dog treats and stuff like that. So I mean, it's a nice little return. I don't look forward to it, but when the day comes.
Right. Well, I'm curious if that's if they sent that to you, if with any of your chickens had probably had passed before, but you probably still get it regardless because you have multiple chickens. You probably buy like crazy bulk.
Yeah, I get 3 or 4 bags a month and a couple bags of scratch, big old bag of peanuts, and stuff. So
you just go to Five Guys and just take it out of the box.
Those aren't shelled. At least these ones, they're for birds, but they're shelled, so it's just the inside.
Oh, okay. So it gives them a little bit of, you got to put some effort in.
Yeah, well, the Five Guys ones you do. These ones you don't.
Oh, word. Okay, it's the other way around. Okay.
Yeah. They love the peanuts though. They hunt for the peanuts amongst the scratch.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's funny because my dogs actually know that I put peanuts in there. And what I'll do is I'll open the back window to the house, throw a couple big cups of scratch out there with peanuts mixed in, and my dogs will see me do that, and then they run out the back door because Parker can open the door. If it's not locked, she opens it and lets herself out, and her and Daisy will go out there, and then they start sniffing through and eating all the peanuts out of the scratch. So the chickens gotta beat them to it.
That's the race. Turns into survival mode very quickly with animals, as it turns out. But yeah, that's basically everything for the RFK scandal. As what I had seen, probably we're getting into a bad habit where or a bad spot where I think a couple of the stories we've talked about, I'll get off air and I'll look at my phone and it's like 3 new things dropped about it, and I was like, dang, it could have been awesome to break like while we were live on air.
That's happened to me a couple times. It's like I need to remember to check my my notifications while we're on, because Truth Social will send me a nugget or something like that, and I'm like, oh crap, I definitely could have added that.
Right, right, exactly. Or it's like some kind of like, or it majorly just changes the way that like we were reporting on the story, because like something will have drastically been different. It's like, well, now that episode, has the replay value of 0 because everything we talked about is old news compared to what just broke recently.
So King Solo Wing said, just asking, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. We try to not to say that directly on the show for obvious reasons, because we want to stay up on YouTube and stay in YouTube's favor if we are even there in the first place. But yeah, pretty much.
I just saw that.
Don't like AIPAC. Don't like funding Israel's offensive maneuvers. I'm all for honoring our alliance in the defense of them, but at the same time, I would expect at some point some money to come back our direction to build that southern border. You know what I mean? You scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. That's how an alliance should work. Is it's beneficial for both parties to the alliance, or everyone involved in the alliance, not just one country or a couple countries fitting the bill, right? And everybody else being
Right.
takers. I'm not a fan of the U.S. Supporting and upholding NATO, basically, with our funds and our soldiers and military. Same thing applies to Ukraine.
Right. Well, I guess the one thing that really kind of, to this question in particular, just like a side point there, one of the things that really broke it open for me was when we have all these individuals during like the adpocalypse with YouTube, and the tried and true trope of if you wish to know who rules over you, look to those you can't criticize, was used all the time. Because if you said anything, what's that famous quote? It's like he's a him though, right? Or like whatever that famous quote was of that guy who got banned out of chat and all these different things. And then all of a sudden it changes when it's this specific group where some people are like, oh, you can criticize them all you want. And it's like, really, dude? It's like, is that why, like, Worrell's like group that he's in with, who does all this YouTube proliferation and like builds channels, it's like, here's one thing you definitely don't want to do to destroy your YouTube channel is talk about this. And then you see people who are like, you can criticize them as much as you want. And it's like, yeah, it's just a joke. But yes, King, we are all on the same page here. Now, there is definitely disagreement, and I think there might even be a small, probably minor disagreements me and we'll have on it. But it's one of those things where it's so toxic to talk about that it's like you can't even have a good, really discourse on it on this platform, at least. You kind of have to pretty much keep it off air. You can probably, Rumble, obviously, you can do whatever you want there. But yeah, YouTube, that's why it's kind of hard to even explore anything related to this issue beyond what kind of gets reported mainstream wise that is like, I guess, like safe to like kind of cover. But yeah, and it looks like even in the chat there's probably disagreement on that too. Not to say everyone here is like an an ardent like Christian nationalist even, but there's we have similar ideals and similar values, so there's probably disagreement on that topic in particular.
Right, for sure. TNT says, so why does it bother you guys that Americans give so much or give money to politicians? AIPAC, is it because they're Jewish or some other reason? I just don't like it that a foreign country has influence with our highest level of governors and not governors of leadership, and whenever those folks are contributing to their funds to because Matt Gaetz has broke it down before, like on Tim Pool's show, and they're constantly fundraising in Congress, and if they're not fundraising and making enough money, then they don't get to sit on committees. They're basically like dead in the water. It's really expensive actually to once you get elected, it's expensive to maintain your position and status or whatever. It's kind of weird. And for me, I just don't like foreign country having influence directly, like what Thomas Massey said on the Tucker Carlson show, that every Republican besides him has an agent assigned to them from AIPAC, and apparently what we've seen recently is AIPAC is even kicking more money to the Democrats than they are the Republicans, if I remember correctly. So I mean,
Right. That was
there's
Crowder's angle.
a lot of influence. Yeah, that was from Crowder. A lot of influence coming from a foreign country, and it's not like America first type influence, right? It's you know, trying to do kind of what we do abroad, but within our own country. And I just don't like that. I don't like that factor at all, really.
Yeah. But there's like
I want these,
multiple.
I want the people to serve. I want our leaders to serve Americans and our people. It's,
Right.
it's a messed up scenario.
Yeah. Well, it's like, what's the right word? It's, there's multiple layers to it. I mean, for one, like I wish lobbying period wasn't a thing at all. I mean, if you could take that money aspect out of it, as long as we don't have, you know, it's not illegal to, you know, give a message without the proper disclosure that it was paid for, you know, that was paid for you to say these things, then like, you know, always going to be against lobbying, because you never know if something's organic or if it's coming from somebody who knows the legislation is going to put some money into their pockets if they get this certain thing passed, or to kill competition and things like that. So the lobbying thing, for one, as a whole, is like just a vile and scummy portion of our politics we just kind of deal with, and we just kind of go along with it. I wish it wasn't so. But you also have the aspect too that they basically brag about how much control they have in our elections. You just go to like APAC.com, right? And you like on their website is like 94, it's like 95% of the politicians we've backed have won their elections. And so you basically have a group that's bragging about the fact that the amount of money and their involvement in our politics is almost a guarantee. It's like, if you come with us, you'll win your seat in the election. It's like, so that kind of control from people who aren't elected is like one thing. It's like, I don't want that money there at all. And then secondly, beyond that, you do have like the interest aspect, right? So now you just have like the lobbying and influence and the conflict of interest there. But then you go to the second level and you go, okay, but what are their interests then, right? Like this group who is dominating financially and you know, politics, well, are their interests like aligned with ours? Like, what are they getting these people to vote on? And I think it's clear. I mean, you just go from like the last couple of weeks, right? You have Kristi Noem, you have RFK, you have Pam Bondi, you have Kash Patel, you have all these major players in the Trump admin. And this is what RFK has been getting flamed for recently, which is tying into this recent story we just talked about, which is, why are you now declaring anti-Semitism as a health crisis, as the leader of the HHS? It's like, what does it have to do with anything? What does that have to do with vaccines, right? Like, that's what people wanted you in there for in the first place. What does this have to do with what's in people's food, right? It's like, now these things are like, it doesn't make any sense. And so there seems to be like an alignment and interest issue. And then you go to the third layer of like where their interests are at. And the third layer goes to like, what is going on in the country that they are supposedly being for and very pro. And that's when you get into the Dave Smiths, the Candace Owens, the Clint Russells, the very anti-war group, who is like, dude, these people are warmongers. All of their interests are thrusting American men and children and our money into wars that we benefit nothing out of. And so you have like a very long list of things where people, like a laundry list, man, going all the way back to like pre-2001, that people are saying, and with evidence as well, that their involvement has led us to do things that are entirely out of America's interest, that not only has cost us financially, but has also cost us literal children, like American sons and daughters. And then you look at the aspect just overseas, which is the fourth level, which is like, nobody wants to support what they're doing.
Right.
At least like as a whole, like right with like the libertarian space. And that's like, you see these memes, right, where this the Chad guy, and it's like two girls, and the Chad wife is saying like, I'm a conservative, like I support Israel, and like the crazy feminist girls like screaming, and she was like, Israel's committing they're committing war crimes, like this and this. And then so it's funny because then you get the guy, the Chad, who's like, he's like, fuck, I agree with the crazy leftist girl. And so it's like that one issue where it's like, doesn't matter on what side of the aisle anyone's on. That one issue, I think a lot of people you can see, especially from the anti-war libertarian group, which is the Dave Smith kind of led party there, who's very anti like what they're doing. And Dave Smith is somebody who's a very ardent kind of historian too. Like out of all the comedians who've kind of even given their bit to politics, his is stuck because his way of not only just debating but arguing and also being like well read on what he's talking about is at a level where it's like it's hard to ignore him. And that's why he takes on RFK and other people in that space too, because he's like, dude, look at what they were doing. Look at what they were doing in 1987, right? Look what they were doing in like 2000. And so there's a long history here too. So it's not just like this came out of nowhere the last couple of years. Like this is we're talking about a long, very, very, very well documented history between two nations that I think a lot of people in the current era are just entirely like, we want no more, nothing else.
Yeah. And, I would feel the same way if any foreign country had the amount of influence at these highest levels within our country. King Solo Wings asked, you guys listen to Andrew from the Crucible? Yeah, I like what Andrew has to say, especially about Christian nationalism and stuff like that. Got distracted. Totally. I wanted to answer that question, so I lost my train of thought there. But yeah, I do. I would feel the same. It's not because that they're Jewish or anything like that. I just want America first politicians. I want people that love this country and the people that live in it, that were born here specifically, didn't run away and or came here legally, didn't break in illegally. Those are I want people to serve us. You know what I mean? I want us to be their number one priority, not the people that paid to get them elected or anything like that. And that it doesn't matter to me what country they come from. I just see I see a lot of the lowest common denominator seems to be coming out of our closest ally, and I start to wonder if that alliance isn't serving an America first agenda the way that I think it should. You know what I mean? I just it's unfortunate, and like TNT mentioned that they're Americans, AIPAC is Americans funding it. But like we saw from the Steven Crowder video, these people that are funding it have a certain agenda. So, I mean, even if it's not coming from the foreign country, it's still to benefit a country outside of the United States, essentially, by, it's proof by the way that they brag that they got, so many of the people that they were funding elected, right? And
right.
So it's one of those. It's just one of those scenarios where I just like it to be gone. The fact that it's so deeply entrenched in our the highest levels bothers me, and it would, like I said, about any country being there. I just want America for the Americans.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's kind of where I think a lot the main Overton window is going. Less so going the whole like Vincent James route and going like all the way down the rabbit hole and saying, and taking the whole on like everything's always the Jews. Now, I'm definitely going to be a very radical for most people when it comes to stuff like that. But again, hard to even discuss on YouTube at all. But you hear things from, I believe it was even like Thomas Massey had said that, right, where they're talking about how they're legislating a bill and their handler will come over and they're like, hey, you didn't mention Israel in like the first 3 paragraphs. And it's like, wait, what? It's like, we're writing an article about like, the American way of life in Florida. And they're like, come on, man, like you at least have to have Israel in the first paragraph there. And it's like, what are you? And so like that kind of stuff where even like at the most base level, it doesn't even matter what the Israel's interests are. It's like, that is not America. So it's not going to be that our interests are aligning 100%, if even at like 50%. And that's where you get this kind of growing Christian nationalist movement is being born out of these guys who are waking up to the fact that this Judeo-Christian, this moniker that we've gotten used to in the sense like, the late 1940s means nothing. It actually like is entirely like a created thing born out of like World War II. And so there's all these moving pieces into it too. And so just to go to a current example is why when you do see that deportation numbers are lower than what Obama even did, but all I can see on the news is what they're clearly concerned about deporting are people who are critical of said foreign country, and not like the mass amounts of them that exist everywhere else, not on these college campuses. It's like it begins to get your gears turning and going, Well, then what are the main concerns here, right? Because you could be going everywhere else, but now we're making a show out of these college campus kids who are like protesting, and some of them are actually here on visas too. It's like we're not worried about the millions of illegals who came here with literally nothing, just crossed the border. You know, they weren't put in by some process. You begin to question and you go, that doesn't make any sense. And then you look at the HR 6090 bill that Matt Gaetz was vocally opposed to, which he was like, what? We're the party of free speech. Why am I looking at this bill that's outlawing portions of the New Testament? What is this? And so you get these things just continually pile up. And so the longer though that you sit here and places like YouTube, it's unsafe to talk about, or if you begin bringing these things up, you're pushed back with like, oh, are you one of those crazy Nazis? It's like there's no really good way to have the discussion if nobody wants to have it, and the most popular platforms, it's like disallowed, or you'll get deranked, or you have to talk about it in a very special way. And so it's like, well, no wonder you're getting a lot of people who are super kind of misled and go crazy radical with it, and then fall into like, you know, sin of like being just openly hateful to other people without having that kind of Christian love. That's how you get those things, because you're not allowed to have full-blown discussions about everything. Like, we're still not in an absolute free speech state. And so it's hard to fault people who follow on either side of that, because if you did, you know, you did grow up in the Ben Shapiro era and you came to trust him alongside someone who's like blue-haired and talking about transing children, well, of course you're going to side with Shapiro. But that's what I was saying. This split has been a thing waiting to happen over time. And that's why once you did see Trump win and everything moved to the right, Christian nationalists got a lot more vocal, and they're like, hey, now that we have a chance, none of our values really line up with this Judeo-Christian Daily Wire conservative narrative you guys have crafted. We want to do X, Y, and Z. And so we have to find ways that we can actually like chip away at that power, even if it means we risk getting canceled and banned and such. And so that's why you do see kind of the current development as well, and why it's seemingly so mainstream and so cyclical. And it sucks because now it's like, I wouldn't even say it sucks, it's just kind of real. But that's why the news cycle can't leave or walk away from this foreign country now. And you're seeing that too with its ties into Epstein and 9/11 and JFK and all these connections now, especially with intelligence agencies such as the CIA. It's not going to go away for some time until we get past this full disclosure of all these documents, until we kind of get that full transparent talk with things. And so we're in for just a rough time, because this is like, it's not going to leave the news cycle for some time.
Oh, I was muted.
Funny.
Yeah, and you know, it seems like this news story is going to be around for a little while here. I mean, at this point, you can pick your top 5 topics to follow, and there's so much else going on. It's just like, what to focus on. The interesting thing is, at times there does seem to be this lowest common denominator, the thing you find in all these stories, which is, you know, political influence from other countries, and it seems to be the same country, you know. But the grain of salt that you got to take, or the thing you got to consider with that, is they are our closest ally. And so, yeah, they're probably going to have a heavier hand in American culture and politics or whatever. But
Right.
I just in a world full of takers, I'm always looking out for who the takers are and who to avoid. And I just see I see America as the country that's being taken from on every level. And, you know, right now, my child who's in her 20s makes $30 an hour and can't afford to buy a house or start a family. You know, so
Right.
we got a lot of problems here within our own country that we need to focus on. And, you know, I don't appreciate a foreign country trying to have their country prioritized by any means by our leaders or whatever, you know. And, you know, I see it also, I see it as, you know, the United States failure of regime building over and over again in all these countries, and, you know, sowing political influence. And I just don't want any bit of that in my own country. I know how it works. We've seen it, you know, for decades now, essentially. And I just don't want any of that crap in my own country. And, you know, I mean, I guess if you're the world power, the world police, you're kind of obligated to, protect yourself in that, with like, the petrodollar being, based off the American, standard and stuff like that. But we've seen that world building, culture building doesn't work, building democracies in these other countries. And I don't want to be influenced by anybody else. I just want to America first. Agenda is top to bottom,
Right. So that's why, at the very least you go, now where's our border wall? Where are the deportations? Where's the money supply? That's actually, it's funny. Again, I believe his name's Eric Klopper. Correct me if I'm wrong, Donnie, or House, if you're in here, but I believe his name's Eric Klopper. Maybe the most traumatizing video about foreskin I've ever seen in my entire life. And it's one
So
of
I'll avoid that one.
well, it's one of the things you never think about, and it's so socially normative, like the way boys are kind of prepared when they're first born. For anyone who's like even halfway curious, look that up. Eric Klopper's video, it's insane. It'll blow your mind. Like the amount of things that go over that you'll then also be like, I have to look this up, because there's no way that this thing that he just said is true. And what was it? I believe he was at
I'm
Harvard.
with Andrea. I'm good.
Yeah, right. It's Tex watched it. Yeah, I think it was at Harvard. It was some major school he gave this speech, and so you can still find the video that's up there. But I was kind of impressed that he gave this such a explicit speech, like at a public ground like that. But it's well worth your watch. It's insane.
Yeah, it's funny. Have you guys ever seen that movie, Robin Hood Men in Tights? It's probably older. I think it's Dave Chappelle's first movie.
Yeah, I think so.
And was it Mel Brooks, I think is the director's name. And he does like the spoof movies and stuff like that. So it was a spoof Robin Hood from I think it was supposed to be from the Kevin Costner Robin Hood, what was it, Prince of Thieves, I think, or whatever. But anyways, he plays the Friar Tuck, and he comes up to the group of dudes and he offers the circumcision. He's talking about it. He's like, it's the hottest new thing. It's called a circumcision. And they're like, the ladies love it. And all the guys in the group, they're around. They're like, oh man, I want to get me one of these. And then he's like, what is it? And he takes he pulls out a little guillotine thing and a carrot, and he puts the tip of the carrot through it and nip the tip. And Dave Chappelle goes, oh man, I forgot I already had me one of those. And all the rest of the guys like turn and start groaning like, yeah, no, not doing that.
That's funny.
It's so funny.
Yeah, I do remember that scene though. I've actually seen that recently on X somewhere. Somebody had posted that exact scene after you had said it, because you said it on a show like not too long ago. Right. And I saw it on X, and I was like, no way, this clip is just on X a couple of days after you told me about that. It's wild.
Yeah, that is wild. Well, let's see here. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not a Nick Fuentes fan. I don't even like saying his name on the channel, honestly. Not a fan of Destiny either.
Yeah, no, definitely not a fan of Destiny. But I appreciate Mr. Bandman. Everybody is at the end of the day, it's like I just see them like crossing their fingers. They're like, I don't want him to be relevant anymore. I don't want to be relevant anymore. And then like 2 weeks later, he has like another viral clip. It's hilarious, dude. I love it. People hate him, man. Both those guys, people love and hate Destiny too.
Yeah, it's weird. I can't believe I think Destiny's got like almost 800,000 subs. It's crazy. I assume they're all hate watching, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think Twitch is like his biggest thing, right? He's got like millions on Twitch. Maybe
he might have got kicked off of Twitch actually, but I can't remember. I think I want to say he did get kicked off, and maybe it wasn't permanent.
Probably. Gypsy Crusader. Okay, yeah. See, that's somebody you could not put on YouTube at all. Not even a half of a minute of a Gypsy Crusader video.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, if you look him up, go to X at least. But yeah, I'm not too familiar with him, but I see his clips all the time just because I'm on like the dissident right side. He says he's awesome. Yeah, I think he's funny. I'll give him that. Like, I think he's a little insane, but you know, he's somebody to content to watch. He's super, super vocal. But I mean, I think the way that Gypsy Crusader takes care of things is like it turns people off, right? Not to say like I don't think he's right on some things that he says, but I think when you go so, what's the right word? You go so in front of like in someone's face about something, they're gonna just be turned off about it regardless. And that's just because like we're in a super soft society anyway. So if you're yelling at somebody or being super aggressive, they're gonna want to kind of naturally like be opposed to it or like think that you're like crazy or something. But I'm trying to think, like he did like a recent like town hall thing that I'd seen where he went to a town hall speech and they literally shut him down after like 10 seconds of talking.
Crazy.
So like there's just better ways I think you can kind of like get those ideas out, kind of like that Lucas Gage route where Lucas's wife, I think, ultimately left him over the nonstop like doxing and like swattings that he was going under. And so like I think it just like it ultimately gets you really nowhere in the end, ultimately. Not to say like I don't appreciate what they have to say, but I think it's just like the wrong approach.
TNT says, I'd like to spar Hassan. On video, he looks big enough to make it fair or close to it. I will say Hassan, I don't watch him a whole lot, only when I'm trying to see a debate where somebody's getting the best of him or whatever. But he does have some like massive arms and hands. Like it seems like his arms are long and his hands are big. He's got those gym muscles, what Six Bomber says.
He had on Elon's trans son earlier today.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they did a stream together and they were talking about like X and some other kind of stuff that was going on, but basically it was like they were both hashing out their daddy issues, Hassan, and I think his real name is Xavier. To dead name him, I don't remember what his trans name is. I think it's like Vivian. Like Vivian Musk is like the name.
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, you can find clips on that on X. I thought about putting it into the show, but none of it's really productive. It's just two gay men talking about how much they don't like Elon Musk.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say TNT. I didn't know PBD was that big. He's 6'5".
Yeah, PBD's massive.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
PBD's a big guy. They did like a recent thing where he was like walking in the street with the guy you like, Osama.
Vinny.
Yeah, Vinny. And
Vinny's
dude,
America
was, like,
first. I love me some Vinny.
not even joking you. PDBD would like take the camera and he'd be like, "All right, Vinny," and it was like
he's putting it down, like
turned all the way over to like point the camera down at him. I was like, "Oh wow, dude, they don't look
Wow.
that big in size, like when they're just sitting next to each other."
PBD wanted to be Mr. Olympia, so he must be a lifter too. Then that's crazy. I didn't know he was into like bodybuilding and lifting and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's always enjoyed the male attention.
I forgot you're not a PBD fan. I think I like him. I don't know about that whole thing with his past or whatever, but I think he's in the right space right now.
Well,
His interview with Tucker won me over.
Well, not to say like I don't like him, right? Like I'm not. There's like very few people like I like literally like don't like Destiny being one of them. Like he's nowhere close to being on like Destiny's level. I guess like I'm not like I'm neutral, right? I'll take him when he says good things. Like if he says something stupid, I'll also criticize him too. He's nobody I have any kind of like real feeling about. I do think ultimately like his main goal with his channel is like less about truth, but more about like promoting people and making money off YouTube. It's kind of like the vibe I've always gone from him.
I mean, it's a business for him.
Visa stuff, right?
Yeah, it's a business for him for sure. I mean, the dude's a businessman first, for sure. But I mean, I think his YouTube channel is just one of the outlets that he's using. You know, he's writing books and selling them. He even wrote a fiction book. I think he's got 3 books now, including his fiction. And he's got that nice little panel. He's got some smart guys on the panel. Tom, I think, is the one guy's name, and then Vinny and Adam. And it's fun to watch them all get in their fights and stuff. But then they get good guests, and I generally agree with PBD, especially like I said, I was sketchy on him until I watched his interview with Tucker Carlson, and I realized that this is a dude that we can trust from like a Christian perspective, to at least, I don't want to say it, be putting his best foot forward. You know what I mean? I guess.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem like he's like grifting for the money. I think he's actually out there trying to. He wants to make money while he does it, but that's not solely why he's doing what he's doing. You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, really, like the only differences I have on him come to things like the immigration stuff, which is why he ended up getting community noted, and like that insurance stuff came out again.
Yeah.
Because he was so pro the H-1B visas, and that's where it'd be like small differences, right? Like, I don't, the same way that I wouldn't expect a Black American to be able to relate with me 100% alignment on certain issues, the same way I wouldn't expect an Iranian, a Syrian to align with me on 100% of issues when it does come to a lot, you know, a lot closer to roots and natural stuff, right? When we're talking about ethnicity and kind of racial issues, I'm not going to expect somebody on the other side of the spectrum for me to kind of, you know, relate or be like in my camp per se, because I'm not a part of the multiculturalist camp, right? I got something I don't believe in. I believe in like race realism. So it's like smaller stuff like that on the H-1B visas I doubt we'd ever see eye to eye on. But when it does come to, you know, kind of make, you know, base level conservative values, that's like a whole other story. Most of that stuff we kind of agree on. It's commonsensical too.
Right. And you know, the H-1B thing, it's one thing when like when a company legally uses what's allowed. It kind of reminds me of like how when Trump said, when they accused Trump of cheating on his taxes, and it's like, no, I'm using loopholes that you guys won't get rid of, so I'm following the laws. I'm not breaking any laws. I'm not cheating on my taxes or whatever. And it's like, well, if the law allows it, then I can use this or do this or whatever. Though it may be scumbaggy or anti-America, like productive wise, but I don't know. I don't know how much it hurts the American worker on a scale. You know what I mean? Maybe there's a tad bit to it, but I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a legally allowed immigration. It's just there's that aspect of, well, then you bring your family, then, you know, all that stuff. So that's
right. And we probably disagree on that too. Like, because I'm in the camp of like, I would literally deport every single person. I would go back to race profiling just to get the deportations done faster. Especially because it's like, you know, like what countries did they come from? It's like, yeah, we have an idea of like where these people are coming from. And that's one of those things too, where it's like you look at it like it's like
and frisk when it comes to deportations.
What, right? I would go full fascistic at this point. I mean, because that's what I'm thinking. Like, you look at the broad picture, like a big picture, I think is a better way to say that. And you look at like, well, how much is it really hurting the American worker? It's like, well, then you look at it and it's like what you had said earlier, right? Like, your daughter's making $30 an hour and can't own a home.
Right.
I'm not even cared about the margins. I'll take literally anything that stops hurting the American worker, even if that means offending a bunch of foreign people because they can't come here for 10 years.
Right.
I'll take it. Like, that's where I'm at. Like, I'm so much beyond like the whole, like, how can we compromise and think of these things? Like, and not to say like there's anything bad in that, but I'm also, I guess, like, just very desensitized to this whole, like, the plight of the refugee, because it's like, we've imported so much of the third world, like we're going to be a third world country. So at this point, I'm looking forward, like, for my daughter's future. I'm like, we need literally not even just 10 million. I'm looking at like, how can I get 40 million people out? Right. Exactly. Ticks 40 million people out of this country, and also get all the ones who came here legally denaturalized and get them out of here too. Because there's also a bigger issue of like legal immigration, and where that's kind of outsourcing not just labor, but for cheap end too, which what we saw with the visa problem.
Yeah, for sure. I was reading TNT's comment here. It's an interesting thought. If people think call centers in India hurt America, consider Coffee Creek Women's Prison has done the AT&T customer service for decades for 0.03 cents an hour. That's interesting. I mean, that's definitely hurting the American worker as well, from within. You know, the prison system is a whole nother thing.
Yeah, and that shouldn't be allowed at all.
Yeah.
Like, I have a brother who's in prison, and it's like, if you're gonna make him do work, like do like recycling around the place or do like the laundry for the prison, allowing a private entity to profit off of prison labor is like, I already think prison's cruel and unusual anyways, but to like then allow like major corporations to profit off of it too is like, that's disgusting. Like that's just like outright disgusting. And again, it hurts the American worker. They should be paying, $15 an hour or whatever the rate's going for a call center job for those people, and Americans should be the ones working them. So they got the Americans
Yeah.
working them, right? But they have the wage drop on them, not working.
Right.
And that's why you probably see with call centers, they do go outsource to India, because if the competition is there's a monopoly on prison labor by AT&T, where every other company's like, well, their margin's at 3 cents an hour. It's like, well, the best we can do is $4.50 for an Indian in India, right? And so like they're not even looking at the American here in the States.
Right. Well, it's just a weird scenario. TNT says at least give them minimum wage, which I would agree with. At least give them minimum wage, but at the same time, give those job opportunities to people that haven't got thrown into prison. You know what I mean? No, there's a lot of folks that are disabled, like what King Solo Wings said. Those jobs are perfect for disabled people. You can sit at your home at your computer and do customer service, type work like that, IT work and stuff. And it would be great for somebody who's like just living above that, that line between being disabled, being on a fixed income, living off Social Security or not. You know what I mean? It's like, if you can keep a person off the system and give them that job, allow them to work from home so that, they might have a bad leg or just whatever the deal is. And then that's being undercut by, 30 cents an hour or whatever it was. That's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
JB says, I don't know. Being in prison and having to deal with an 80-year-old lady that doesn't know anything about computers would be worse than death.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
True. Very true. But no, I didn't realize we were actually running that for a long time. Which one are you going to go to? Hawk Tuah, or you want to go to the USAID shutting down?
Let's go to USAID. I got to step away just for a second, so I'm going to let you take over, and I'll be right back.
Yeah. I'll pull it up on my end. Wow, it's a Stolo Atlas show, guys. And now we're going to talk about Israel. Just kidding. Okay. So USAID officially shut down. However, it's like, just as if its department on its own is being shut down. They were having a good portion of their functions being merged with the State Department as well. So you do have an existence of it is still going to be around. It's just the department itself being shut down. Now, when Royal gets back, we have a video because we'll go over some of the protesters and what they had to say, but ultimately it was just a bunch of retarded groveling. But it's a celebration, right? USAID is getting shut down. Ultimately, though, I think if you look at the spending bills we've been putting forward, everything Doge has been it's getting cut out. We're still making up with what we're spending in some of these bills, which is what Thomas Massey opposed, which is like, it makes this Doge thing just kind of like a theatrics, because ultimately if we're going to still be spending pointless money on things we don't need, it's like Doge didn't really save us anything, let alone, say, kiss goodbye to apparently those like, those checks that are going to give back to people for shutting all that down. But the verbatim report here is the U.S. State Department has announced the official shutdown of USAID, with plans to merge its functions into the State Department. This move will see approximately 900 remaining USAID employees terminated. While some posts suggest political motivations behind the decision, official statements focus on operational efficiency. And so they locked the door. There's some photos they put up there. Again, I would put on screen if Worrell was here, but they did knock that down. King said, stay away. That's funny. Have a good night, King. It's good to see you in here. Glad you jumped in. Tick says the roaches will just scatter to a new dark and damp place. And then looks like, yeah, King's taking off. But yeah,
catch you later, Solo Wings. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, brother. And then I was going to oh yeah, if you want to present that, but I'm going to find that video first.
Which one? Let's see here.
Didn't tag
USAID workers protesting.
Yes. Yeah, I put it in the outline, didn't I? Tell me I did.
Yeah, I got 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, put it on the screen. There we go. So we got just in, the U.S. State Department has notified Congress that real Donald Trump and Elon Musk have officially toppled the #1 sponsor of terror on the planet, USAID, according to ABC News. And here is the video that goes along with it. Let's check it out.
We're cutting off millions of children from food to save ourselves like pennies on the dollar. You know, again, less than 1% of our budget.
Millions of children. I think more like trillions.
Good. They need to figure out how to grow corn in Africa. Figure it out.
I'm sorry. It's just it's such a falsehood. USA. They say USAID, and I feel like it's like spelt like that and everything to try to trick people. What is it called? It's actually the United States Administration of International something like what is it called? It's not. It doesn't have anything to do with aid directly, at least.
It's the U.S. State Department of International Development.
Of International Development. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, she has a 50 IQ and can actually make words. Impressive. Okay, I'm going back to playing this, but yes, down with the USAID, just me.
Like, that's not a saving. And this work is literally life and death for some people. So it's not a savings. But
oh, there's so many emotions. I already cried this morning when I arrived. Someone said, thanks for being here, and I just burst into tears. But I want to be here because I came early to support my colleagues. I think community is the most important thing, and that's what we work for around the world. We start at home. I mean, I think people don't understand the thing. We're sending money away, but really we're building community at home. We're supporting farmers here, bringing that sense of community and support to the world, to be good neighbors.
I worry about the people that have gone this many days without food, without medicine, without the humanitarian assistance that we promised them. My hope is that the work isn't abandoned completely. I think the misconception is that bureaucracy is bad. I worked on developing a lot of projects, and you don't do those overnight. Those have lots of checks in place to define what you're doing and to make sure what you're doing is meeting priorities of the agency. You just don't create something because you think it sounds good. It really has to be grounded in priorities for USAID and for America. And I think the misconception is that we weren't doing that, and that's not true. We were.
Well, that proves it.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna continue.
It's a sad day when the American government.
How much you want to bet that guy's flag is touching the ground? Look at this guy. He doesn't. He's just out there virtue signaling. It's nonsense.
Decides that American values are no longer important, that it's no longer of value to export what we believe in to the rest of the world.
Yeah, transgenderism, gay butt sex, that's what we're exporting.
USAID is one of the most
right, propaganda, paying Politico, BBC. Who else was it? I can't even remember who else there was. There's a few other news sources that were being paid by USAID. So crazy.
Right. Well, it's like maybe we don't literally castrate ourselves as a country to help entire nations that couldn't even develop, I don't know, the wheel. Maybe help them with their industry and people always say they need more education. It's no, dude, they need the conviction and willpower to have their own countries not be shitholes. Anything else than that, it's it means nothing. Mm-hmm. I mean, dude, I think of the video I saw the other day of the guy took a Coca-Cola bottle to a tribe in Africa and and there's like an 8-minute long video of them figuring, like, he's like, I'm not gonna tell you how to open it, and it's like them like eating it, like they're eating the corners of it and like the sides of it, and it's just like some of these countries are so far from even being able to begin to understand like the little slight soft power pushes we're doing. It's like it's so entirely pointless, and all at the same time, it's like we have how many homeless and starving in this country that USAID is like clearly not caring about. Like, I'm sorry, it's America first, America only for me. It's like I could care less. Like, yeah, let them starve. Where are their fathers? What are those children's fathers doing?
Right.
Right? Like, what? Like, it's not my responsibility. Like, this is America.
This dude's father probably left his mother and ran away with some dude.
Yeah, right. Right.
Let's see this. Wow, he actually has a USAID shirt. What the fuck, bro? Like, I guess maybe David Pac-Man sold it to him. Somebody from one of them lefty shows.
Right. Right.
All right, let's play the rest of this here. Cringe alert.
Accountable and transparent parts of the United States government. The Office of the Inspector General has done numerous audits and has found no fraud, no waste. What Elon Musk thinks is that he has found things he disagrees with, and that's fine. People in this building have spent 65 years responding to what the president wants, have spent 65 years responding to the needs that the president says.
I'm betting that he had a mocktail after that interview.
I bet that he's gay.
I'm so white guy, liberal, angry right now.
We're here. We thank you. This is not happening in the dark.
Oh, shut up. I can't believe these people go out there and shill for USAID and act like, I mean, first of all, it's shut down. Nothing you're going to do with your little protest is going to accomplish anything. Just such a weird thing. Liberals are so stupid. Like, this is a virtue signal in itself, right? Let's go out there and hold up a flag, hold up a sign. It's crazy.
But you can always bet on some fat, hideous, miserable woman making some comment too. It's like, if I could go to the play market, that's what I would bet on. It'd be like, is there a 4% odds that a fat, miserable lady says something in this video? Like, I'm betting on it, dude. $100 bet right now. Like, again, it's like, who's she helping? Like, you're just yelling. They're locking the doors, ma'am. It's been decided. Like, no one cares about your protest.
I'm surprised they're not wearing masks. I mean, they're not social distancing safely at all.
Yeah, right.
JB says, why do they always look like someone I wouldn't trust with my kids? Well, because they're not people you should trust with your kids, right?
Right.
And just me asked, what percentage of these protesters do you think are FBI? What percentage do you think are actual useful idiots? Well, it's in D.C., so TNT guessed 80-20 feds to useful idiots, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they're all feds. Or maybe they're all just useful idiots. I mean, I don't know. DC's full of them.
Right. I don't know if I would say any of them are feds. I think they're just retarded. Like, I think they're just sad people. And it looks like most of them are like workers
Hired
there too. So you could say they're former feds, right? They're working for the federal government in some capacity.
Donnie says everyone is a fed but me.
Right.
Andrea says they really do all have the same look. It's weird. It's because they don't eat meat.
Yeah, that what's like what I always refer to that same Hyde video, man. That it's so accurate. Like, there's a certain kind of like grotesquification that occurs to your body, like when you so deeply have a hatred for yourself and you only want people who look like you and share your values to suffer, and you want to give it all to people who you've never met, never knew, that live halfway around the world. That kind of like the heat map. And there's something like distinct you can see on all these people that, like, deforms them in some way that they can't pick up on, but I think anyone else who's not like them can see. There's just some kind of like liberal look. Like with men, it's a bit easier to tell, right? With men, for a liberal, it's like, oh, he's a very skinny. His voice sounds like he's Mickey Mouse. Like, oh, you're gay. Like, yeah, you can tell like a liberal man. And with women, most of the time they're just fat, but like they have like a very kind of grotesquification like of their face. And you can just see it on these people. Some kind of like an evil's presence, like visible, right? These people are like always drenched in some kind of just like disgusting thing.
They
So it's
lack
like
the spark of life in their eyes because they're all dead.
right, exactly, right. Just surrounded by just grotesque degeneracy all the time. Does something to you physically,
right? Yeah, for sure. Just me says, oh, so you think that none are FBI? Then JB, I wouldn't be surprised if none of them are. I would be. My guess is maybe they. Or I wouldn't be surprised. I guess I should say I wouldn't be surprised if the FBI, put out the propaganda and then these people just showed up on their own. Maybe not FBI. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I trust Cash, but we'll see. Yeah. Andrea said, I'm never going to look at Mickey Mouse the same way now. Thanks, Atlas.
But that's what I hear, right? Some of these guys, and this isn't even me, like, it's like easy for me to say, right? Because like I have like a blessing from God. Just like, yeah, I have no other way to really talk without my voice sounding the way it does. But there's some of these guys where it's like, it's just painful to hear because it's like, there's no way that your voice has that little bass to it. Like it's like you can just tell like there's something, and like that gay voice.
Totally,
right?
I totally agree.
Yeah, right, and I'm like, I hate saying that because it makes me sound like I'm being like arrogant or something. No, I'm not. But it's
making
like,
sure I talk a lot deeper just to make sure I don't.
Get just to throw it in there. But there's like the gay man voice, right? Like there's like the guy who's gay, and he's like he wants you to know he's gay. So every word's got a bit of flair to it. It's like
the flamboyant. Yeah, it's like seeking a partner.
Right. Yeah, it's a mating ritual the way they talk. But liberal men have the same thing, right? Like Destiny, right? Like Destiny, I mean, I guess you can call him gay. But like there's some guys who are like
he's openly gay or bi or whatever. I mean, I've heard him literally say sometimes you just want to suck or whatever. And it's like, no, you don't. Yeah. But you said it, and I'll take your word for it for you.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I remember seeing that, and that was just, yeah, I had the same reaction as you, like, what the But even straight liberal men, they have like just a twink voice, man. Like I have no other way to describe it. It's not even like a matter of like that their voice their voice might be high. Some straight men have voices are high and it doesn't sound like that. But it's like the way they say words. It's like everything about what you're saying makes me think you are a homosexual liberal. And it's hard to articulate sometimes, but you just like,
do you remember right. Do you remember the white dudes for Kamala ad that we played?
Yeah.
That we played and we're like faker, poser. There's like they're trying to send this masculine, message in their thing. It's like, no, he's gay. That guy doesn't have any kids in real life.
That's right. Wasn't it Alex Stein who dropped that like release, and it was like, this actor was a former OnlyFans homosexual porn star, and it's like, oh yeah, that's who I would get for the masculine ad. And you go to the next one, and it's like,
it was like a white dude that was lifting weights, talking about having kids, and it's like, actually, he's a gay without kids. It's just funny because like you can tell just by watching it without even looking into their history that these dudes aren't real, like the true identity of masculine or even or even straight or anything.
Yeah, it was the one who was like sitting on the truck too, right? Was he had like his legs were crossed or something? It was like anyone who just like you flash that image to him, it's like, whoa, what was that? That was pretty gay. It's like you only saw it for a second. How do you know that? It's like there's just something there that you can pick up on. That's just like there's more than 3 dimensions, man, and sexuality is like one of them, and you can just tell about people. It's kind of crazy. And I know everybody knows what I'm talking about because you see people walk through the door at a restaurant sometimes and you're like, dang, dude, like that guy's really gay. And you're like, how can you tell? It's just like maybe the way his hand was sitting. It's like you just like get that feeling. You're like, dang, that's kind of wild.
TNT says, if you didn't kill a deer and eat its warm heart at 13 years old, your dad was gay. You gotta take a bite.
Right. I mean, I think personally, if we returned to tradition like that, we wouldn't be seeing half of what we're probably seeing from men in today's day and age, right? I think
Right.
eating a warm beating heart from a deer would probably do something to you. It's probably why men were very, very violent back in the day, but that's another discussion for another
It's
day.
full of testosterone. I don't know. I can't back that up.
Right. Or just like the primal nature of eating something while it's alive.
Right. Primal nature of just eating something that you hunted. It's actually a good feeling. It's a very manly, fulfilling, primal connection when that happens. I recommend every man go hunt, bring that prey home, and cook it for your family. It's a manly moment.
Right.
And Donnie says, I'd be happy just to see men who have been in fights.
Yeah, that too.
Right. Well, they made it to where you can't fight in school now. You know, I mean, it was like that back in my day as well. It's been like that for a long time. Like you get serious trouble for fighting in school or whatever. And, you know, we knew if we had to fight in high school, just go to this classroom or that classroom, or go to the weight room, go to the field house, because Miss Gonzalez, the lesbian gym teacher with a lazy eye, or Mr. Harless, the elderly dude that wore the same thing every day, was a college football coach and the wrestling coach that was more ripped and more aggressive than every kid in school. Those two would let you fight unless they knew one person was going to get obliterated, and then they would break it up, or they wouldn't let it start.
Right. Yeah. Nowadays, it's nothing like how it was. Like, growing up, it was like eat or be eaten. You know, and dude, the school I went to was involved in multiple like local news scandals from some of the stuff that happened at, you know, in our locker rooms and stuff. So, but it's completely different now. But like, you know, there is probably like a bar, right, where some men just are going to get eaten alive. It'll permanently scar them the way they got bullied, could never overcome it. I think it's just naturally just like a way of life. Like there is a kind of you know, culling, for lack of better words, where I think when you remove that aspect that does call, you know, mainly men more often than women, that kind of sifts them to be like greater men or be the continual weak coward, and then you take that out of society, it probably does some things that we're really not fully prepared for the consequences of.
Dang. TNT said I got shanked in the left buttocks while I was in jail at 16. I haven't slept on my stomach since. Good thing they weren't a good shot. It didn't go bullseye there. That would suck. Even worse.
Right. That's funny. And that was the last time I ever went number 2.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I'm right there with TNT and I'm right there with TNT and Donnie. I was always the young kid that hung out with the older kids playing sports. And the big kids didn't like it when you tackled them playing football or doing whatever. And so then you have to beat them up. And thankfully, I knew how to wrestle. I'd put those kids in a move where they couldn't get out of. Because I learned something. It's funny, I'm going to side derail this for a second. But I learned something as a kid. As the younger kid that always had to like defend himself and even fight, is I would you know, I wouldn't beat these kids up, but I would win the fight. And then I'd get to the point where it's like, all right, I'll let you up. And then as soon as I let them up, they'd want to fight again. And I have to fight again, but I just gave up my advantage. So I got to the point where I learned you have to hold them down and make them admit that they're the bitch. Be like, who's quitting? Who this? Who what? Say it, or I'll just squeeze harder. And then finally, like, once you let them up, they don't want to fight you again afterwards because you're done humiliated them and everybody knows who won, and it's just over at that point. Right. Everybody around's laughing at him saying, why would you want to go fight him again? What are you doing? You know?
Right.
It was
live with the loss there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Pain don't hurt and losing does. That's true.
Well, that's where it goes back to the whole, like, we as a society, right? As a society, that's that famous thing. We are so far removed from like physical altercations, let alone like just like brute violence, like raw violence, that's probably why we are in a lot of the predicaments that we are in. When you take away such a utility, a tool that has essentially shaped everything that we have come to know and love, and the earth and everything that we have, all of the summation of achievements and history that we sit on top of the shoulders of. And now we're in one where, I mean, you as a kid, if you flick someone behind the ear as a kid, you're probably going to get suspended for a couple of days. I mean, like that kind of level of no tolerance on violence that kind of roots it even out of men. And now we're at this position where I think Tate was the first one who kind of brought this idea to my attention, but I've said it multiple times, where you outsource any kind of disciplining or enforcement mechanism to one group, like the police, and men kind of no longer feel that need to have to worry about anything, right? Because the cops will handle it, or the society is so safe that I dare you to do something violent to me in public. Everyone's going to see it, because that overwhelming feeling of like there will be harsh consequences for that activity has kind of rooted out, I think, a very foundational aspect in men, which is why you do see all of the problems that you see with young men nowadays, which seemingly very lost, they're very deformed, fat, sad, not well built. I mean, they literally having to be told, like, go to the gym. And it's kind of unthinkable, because it's like back in the day, if men were going to the gym, and it's like a new phenomenon, but like you didn't have to be told to go to the gym. Like, you were already physically in shape because you were probably doing something or were involved or physically active. So all these things kind of disappear, on top of the society culminates in a way where, as a man, I see some of these videos, like these fat fathers who, like, they let go of the strolling wheel. The next thing you know, like, the baby's flying down the hill, and they're like tripping, trying to get up to their kid, because everything's been outsourced. Why would they ever need to worry about doing anything, right? The steering wheel has a braking system on it, and his car has like all these special features on it, and the police will be there in a couple minutes, so you don't have to worry about anything. And in turn, it turns men into these non-adaptive, just sad kind of wallets, really. They could be protectors and providers, but when you remove the protector aspect and you only become, your only goal really is a provider, that in turn also is like why you see women who don't care as much for the protector aspect. They're with all these sugar daddies who are just, again, like some of the most cringy, ugly looking guys, but it's because they have money. And so you kind of remove the protector role out of society. All that's left is the provider. And if that becomes the only thing that's really meaningful in society, because everyone else will protect you, it's only like on a very small whim chance that someone may break in your door that you'd have to worry about that it's no wonder why the dating market is what it is. And when before men could compete on protector roles and provider roles, and then now they can only compete on provider roles in an economy that's destroyed and owned by people that don't serve American people's interests, it's like, well, it's no wonder why we're in so many of the predicaments that we're in. And no wonder why so many men are like, I could care less about what goes on, because they don't ever have any kind of like high attaining goals, where it's like, I would never, if I wanted to, work on being a carpenter, small town carpenter, I'm never going to be the guy who's, making $200K a month that 90% of women think that they deserve. There's like all these like different kind of things that play in there that I think ultimately you need to find a way to put more violence in society. And as crazy as idea as that is, like, I think that's one thing that we kind of actually need to rethink our processes on, because I think it's really hurting young men at the end of the day.
Yeah. And then, to go back to what you were saying earlier too, is like you were talking about the lack of masculinity when the guy is not healthy enough to chase the stroller down the street or just whatever, right? Or the rolling away, dude's huffing and puffing. Part of the the pussification of American men is the fact that I saw this the other day, and it's a couple things. The school system is built by women. Telling little boys to sit down and be quiet and listen is counter to their nature. Not allowing them to wrestle around, not allowing them to fight out their differences. It's them suppressing their natural instincts, right? And so when you get this culture of men, these generations of men that have done nothing but suppress their aggression, suppress their sexual, feelings, you end up with this vanilla, traumatized, out of place man that doesn't have a place in this world. You know what I mean? And
Right.
you know, it's something that we need to break out of. You know, it's why I encourage folks to do like homeschooling, get your kids involved in, you know, extracurricular activities, keep them busy. Don't let them be raised by the cell phone, the tablets, you know what I mean? All that stuff.
Right.
And you know, let them wrestle it out. Let them fight it out. One of my cousins was one of my best friends growing up. He lived on a farm, and sometimes we would just fight. But you know what? When the fight was over, we'd go eat dinner, and then we'd do something else and
Right.
whatever. You know what I mean?
Give each other a fat slap on the ass, right?
I mean, we'll wrestle for hours, beating the crap out of each other, and then move on to the next thing, go swimming in the pond or whatever. But whenever it's all suppressed, it's a very, you know, mentally damaging scenario for these kids, these little boys and even young men that are growing up, where it's like they're not old enough to really like hurt each other through fighting. Yeah, they might get some black eyes or whatever, but like they're not men hitting men where you can literally, you know, kill somebody.
Right.
And then it's to the point where it's like you either end up in a grown man and you don't have the ability to defend yourself or your family, or even the willingness or the know-how or anything like that. So it's
right.
It's
Well, I
not-
mean,
it's a wild
think about
scenario.
that. You have men who, again, from the moment of conception, every ounce of not only just their parents at home, but school and institutions, Hollywood, the films they consume, the TV shows they consume, it's all about suppressing that, which is natural to men, right? Which is like hitting, you know, the physical interactions, right? Even with like love, right? A lot of men's, you know, love language is physical touch. It's not like getting gifts. It's not like being told like, oh, you look so handsome today. For men, it's like touching, like physically touching them, right? Like men speak a lot more through their actions that way. And so you have men suppressing that to an insanely high level. You have also with the sexual stuff too, suppressing that, right? Like anything or the way you look at women is like it's all evil. You're just naturally just busted in some way. Men got to control it.
Right.
Then you add on that all these men who are pushed through this effeminate schooling system are then, because they can't sit still in class because everything in the school system is actually built for girls, not boys. They're on SSRIs, they're on attention deficit medication, and then people at the end of the day are like, why that guy just like, why that incel who like got beat up at school 1,000 fucking times just shoot everyone? Like that makes no sense.
Right.
Guns are the problem. And it's like,
why did this 6'5", you know, ADD kid just beat the hell out of one of the teachers over a Game Boy?
Right. And it's like, well, and the people are like, man, dude, like we need to like take away everyone's guns and give these kids more drugs. It's like, hold on, wait a minute. It's like, I think that we're getting one of these issues messed up, right? Like I think that one of these things is not what we're the problem here, but it's just refusal to back down. And a lot of it comes from that kind of basic root baked into the cake now at this point, that feminism, that third, fourth, and fifth wave feminism that has convinced people to kind of orchestrate our all of ourselves and always suppressing what men are doing, right? And it's like you have women who are growing up thinking like women have been oppressed for thousands of years and everything men did and the way that they are and just naturally are made by God is evil. And I think to me it's one of those first things of, you know, when Jesus himself says like, and then they will call evil good and good evil. It's, I mean, like that started years ago with men, just to make men's nature, right? Like the way that God designed men to behave and act outside of the original sin and the sinful aspects, but just like those kind of ways he ordained him, right? The man to be a protector, to be the more aggressive and assertive version of himself. All of that said, all of it's evil. And then you get these androgynous kind of beings where men kind of prune all that off. And in the whole, those things we need those things in society. So because men aren't allowed to be them or have them, you have women who fill the void, and then women become less feminine, they become more masculine, and then at the end you have this gray androgynous mass of a bunch of weirdos who have no idea what they're attracted to.
Yep, definitely. Well, I see some of you guys saying this was a great show. I appreciate all the positive comments. And I got to say, once again, I believe we have one of the best chats on YouTube. And I'm just so thankful that you guys show up every show. And I'm glad that the the merging of chats has worked out to an extent. Like I said, around here, we're not always going to agree. But this is a place where iron sharpens iron. That goes for the Discord as well. And we can continue these conversations beyond just when we're live. And TNT, you always crack me up. Man, Tix, you always got good at information. Just I'm not gonna list everybody, but I just gotta say you guys are great. We're missing House AI tonight. Maybe he's just being quiet, but it was a nice weather Saturday. So once again, I understand why a person wouldn't be sitting here, and to that effect, once again, I appreciate everybody for taking the time to visit us on such a nice Saturday. I hope it's been a great day, weekend, for everybody as well. Joy and Cyrus, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I can't say the same. I only like a couple of you. Most of you, I wouldn't even spit on you if you were dehydrated. No, I'm just messing. I like everybody here except for Donnie, really. But no, yeah, it was a good show. I thought we did really well. I think the merging kind of the chatters is actually good. We actually can have this discussion where you guys can rather have the discussion being hashed out in the comments rather than being kind of nuclearized on either side of the aisle between me and Worrell.
Right. Well, I come into a lot of these scenarios undecided, trying to have the discussion with you, with chat, trying to come to the most logical place where we can move forward from. And so some of this is still discovery for me. And I appreciate the journey as we go along here.
I'm the opposite. Israel guilty until proven innocent. I'll just be honest. I am biased.
But I try to stay steadfast in my America first perspective. I love America. I love Americans way more than I love the rest of this world. And I feel like we all deserve better than what our government provides us. And
right.
I want to say Joy and Cyrus is from the Dirty Money podcast. We've had Dirty Money on before. And I don't know if you'd appreciate me saying this or not, but I don't know if you know this, Joy and Cyrus, but Dirty Money can't stream from the truck anymore. And I don't want to give away too much, but I think you can read between the lines probably what happened or whatever, you know what I mean? But it sucks. Dirty Money's channel took a heavy blow because of that. So we're wishing him the best as far as that goes and everything. I thought maybe we'd see him tonight, but again, it's a nice Saturday. And he was streaming all day, but he just wasn't on the truck. And he said that he couldn't actually say, but I'm like wondering if I could say it, but maybe not. Maybe not. And I won't say the exact reason why, but I think you guys can read between the lines, and maybe he could say it here. I don't think he could even say it here. But it's unfortunate. And so anyways, Joy, Cyrus, appreciate you for being here, commenting everything. I love the chat. Love all you guys. TNT says we all say stupid shit at times. Sometimes we need to beat down, other times an explanation is in order, but I remember the beat downs more, right? That's true.
Right.
So with that, you got anything else? I think we're just going to wrap it up there.
Yeah, nothing else. Yeah, kind of echo everything Worrell said, except for liking you guys. No, I'm just messing. One other thing I would add would one of the other major stories I wanted to we missed, but we didn't hit because we ran out of time. The Hawk Tuah girl, obviously the coin, no charge was getting filed with that. People are upset about that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's really it. Christ is King. Appreciate everybody for being here. Everybody thought it was a good show. Maybe we do a bit more conversation and less topics, possibly. Seems like that seems to be what a lot of people like when we do go a little bit further in depth, at least a little bit more personal kind of relation to things too.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny that Donnie said that. I think Worrell's always been a good bit red pilled. I think he just, obviously just kind of holds back for, YouTube and obvious reasons. But it's been cool to see and be able to open up and have these discussions as well. But yeah, thanks everybody for being here. And as always, ban women, put him back in the kitchen, and it would get my way. Kash Patel get deported.
All right. With that, you guys, have a good rest of your weekend. Tomorrow's church day, so I hope everybody has a nice, blessed day and doesn't go too fast before we all got to get back to work on Monday. So love you guys. We'll see you guys on Monday. Same place, same time. And Christ is King.
Amen. Have a good night, everybody.
With war rolling at the start, we here to bring the truth. Jar open this podcast, we breaking through the fake news. They try to silence us, but we will be subdued. We're bearded alpha males here to save the youth. Spitting fire on the mic with our bass Christian takes. Exposing the lies, keeping the demons at bay. We ain't afraid to speak up, we won't be swayed. Jar open this podcast, where the truth is laid. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas up, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. We ain't playing games, we're on a mission to awaken the masses with our intuition. Pulling out the corruption with no inhibition. Jar open this podcast, sparking a revolution. We're not afraid to stand tall in a world full of deceit. We're the voice of reason, bringing light to the street, keeping it real, never missing a beat. Jar open this podcast, where the truth meets the heat. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas up, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. Jar open this podcast, where the truth will never cease. Join us on the journey to bring back peace. We're rolling Atlas up, fearless in our release. Jar open this podcast, where the lies will decrease.